This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com. Hello everybody, welcome back to Elder Geeks Game Club. This is episode number 17. My name is Steve Wilkinson, and with me as always is Phil Summers. Phil, how are you doing tonight?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to hear that you're doing good. And with us also, as always, is Randy Yasenchak, owner, editor, big man in charge at ElderGeek.com. Randy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm coming down from like an Amalur little marathon for our upcoming video review.
Very nice, very nice. Cool. How, just real quick, in one sentence or so, how you feeling about it?
It'll get a worth trying.
Cool.
But it didn't live up to my expectations.
All right. Fair enough, fair enough. I've only played the demo, so I can't really, I can't judge beyond that. So this is the Game Club podcast. As I said, this podcast, what we'll do is kind of a book club format. We play a game for a couple weeks, then we get together here and record a podcast where we just dissect and discuss the game. This time around, we played Bastion. And Phil, why don't you go ahead and give us a little background on the Bastion game?
Sure. So it is developed by newcomers, Supergiant Games. They were founded in 2009 by, probably going to say this wrong, Amir Rao. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. It looks good to me.
And Gavin Simon. They're ex-EA guys. They worked on some Command & Conquer games. So, this game was published by Warner Brothers, but it was actually in development for about 2 years, and Warner Brothers didn't actually sign on until pretty late in the game here. They actually didn't come on until GDC of 2011, so only a couple months before the game launched on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for that reason, obviously, it was self-funded by these guys. And that was developed by a team of about 7 people. They were split in LA and New York City. All the major, I think, game design elements were handled in LA, whereas like audio and the music and dialogue and everything was recorded in New York. And initially went through a 9-month prototyping phase, so I'm assuming that's included in those 2 years. And yeah, and then after Warner Brothers picked it up, it got released on Xbox in July, Steam only a month later, and then on Google Chrome OS. I kind of wanted to see how that ran. I guess there's no like demo though or anything, right?
I think you can run it and install it without paying for it. I think it's gated. Like you can only play a little bit before you have to actually buy it.
I was just kind of curious.
It's like a demo version of it, basically.
Okay.
Because I ran it. I played it a little bit.
You did?
On there just to see. I was at work and I didn't have a controller or anything, so I just tried it out on there real quick.
Was it? I mean, I don't want to get too into it yet, but I mean, it was basically the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was. I mean, it ran full screen and everything. It wasn't like in the browser. I mean, you could run it. So it looked like you were just playing a game. I mean, it was like any other browser-based game I've ever played. Battlefield Heroes or Quake Live. It was pretty much the same experience as those, where it was pretty seamless and it didn't feel like you were sitting there playing it in a browser window.
Right. Yeah, this is the old man in me is going to come out, but I can't believe we're at this point where like we can play games in a browser. Like good games, you know what I mean?
It's in a changing world. It's good.
It is
more ways to get the games out there. It's all good. You mentioned the audio and a big part of this game. It's a top-down isometric, kind of like a dungeon crawler almost style game, and it's very heavily emphasis. The emphasis is on the narration. Which kind of happens dynamically as you move through the world. Now, I remember as we were researching the game a bit, the narrator didn't actually meet any of the developers or the designers in person until the game was pretty much done. Because he was in New York recording everything, and they were just kind of like uploading stuff back and forth, and So that was kind of interesting. And the soundtrack, which has been pretty critically acclaimed for good reason, was done by Darren Korb, who I believe was a childhood friend of Amir.
Yeah.
And that's how he got hooked up with him. I don't know that he had ever done any game music
No,
before.
I think it said just like some TV stuff, maybe like a movie. So yeah, the games were new to him.
Yeah, well, he did a pretty awesome job, but
Did a bang up job. Apparently, they weren't even going to release a soundtrack, and then people demanded they release it, and it sold really well too.
Mhm.
So there was demand. But yeah, I mean that's essentially it as far as history goes.
yeah, I mean it hasn't been around very long, so there's not much to say.
Right.
But the game's been met with much critical acclaim since its release, and
it sold like 500,000 copies, and in 2011, so half a year, 500,000. It's pretty good.
it showed up on a lot of
Awesome.
People's Game of the Year lists for 2011. A lot of game media websites, and I think it won Best Downloadable Title, didn't it? From one of the award things.
I believe so.
I don't know if it was from the Spike one or I don't know, one of those.
There was a publication that I'm pretty certain gave like Game of the Year. So I mean, it's gotten a lot of praise.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find our actual review of it, like the official Elder Geek review of Bastion. I know we did one.
Yeah, I remember.
I think Jesse wrote it, and I know we gave it a worth buying.
Yeah, I remember when it was put up. I remember looking at it. So that now, correct me if I'm wrong, but real quick, a distinction we should make about Bastion and the Game Club podcast is I think this may be the first game that all three of us have finished.
Yep.
Wow, Randy, you finished it too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this is the first one, right? I believe. It took us 17 episodes, but we finally all three of us finished a game.
Wow.
Excellent.
Wow.
So that's good. That's great.
And that's not out of laziness. A lot of times that's out of, one of us sucking pretty hard at a game.
Or just not enjoying it,
Or just not enjoying it,
Right,
yeah.
Which is the nature of the show. I mean, we're not, we never claim to be a definitive review of the game. Right. It's just a discussion, and so if it's something we don't like, we don't finish it.
I'll be honest, I was almost the odd man out. I almost didn't finish it.
I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I finished it last night.
Oh, good for you, man.
So Phil, why don't you want to start us off with your thoughts?
Oh, I get to start?
If you'd like, it's balls in your court. If you want, if not, hit it back.
Let me knock it back to Randy, since Randy finished it. Let me knock it back to Randy.
Okay.
Wow. But thank you, by the way, for letting me start this off. I'm kind of hoping that nobody is going to be thinking too harshly on this, and I also want to kind of preface this that this is not ElderGeek.com's official take on the game. This is my personal take, as well as it is like everybody's personal take here. Elder Geek gave it a worth buying, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I think the game has fantastic art style. I think the music is beautiful. And in fact, if we were to like rate the soundtrack, I would even give the soundtrack a worth buying. And I think no matter where you pick it up, I think there's an option to also download it with the soundtrack, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's only like $1 or $2 more or something like that. It's not much more.
Yeah.
Like when you do it on Steam.
Yeah. Definitely some solid gameplay. I think it's a very well polished game. I can't think of any like real bugs or glitches or anything like that I ran into, and it was, the controls were tight. It was immediately responsive. I thought the narration was excellent. And all in all, for like a top-down game for the $10 or $15 or however much you managed to pick it up for, I think it's worth the sticker price that you're paying for it. It's the kind of game that I wish had existed back when we were still playing like the SNES. Like this game would have been awesome if it appeared on the SNES or the PlayStation 1. It's still awesome now, but if this came out back then, it would be one of those games that everybody would be like, oh hey, do you remember how awesome that game was? It would be one of those few games that kind of stood the test of time. On the flip side, as much as I liked the narrative, I'm like being like Winnie the Pooh here, the narrator. As much as I liked the narrator, I really wish I had an option to turn him off.
You do have an option to turn them off.
Oh, you do?
And I did it.
I wanted to do that. I should have done that. I didn't do that. Because I was thinking to myself how different the game would be without the narrator in it. And it's a good game, but I think that a lot of people are being wooed by how well the narrator's job has done, how well it was coded into the game and everything like that. But after like the first couple of boards, I was like, okay, I get it. It's this really well programmed kind of thing, but I don't need it anymore for this top down kind of action. So I think if I played again, I will turn him off. And I think if you do turn him off, and like I said, I haven't done it yet. I think if you do turn him off, that I think it would, I think it would drastically change the I don't know. I don't want to say the pace of the game, but just the overall feeling of the game. And one other negative that I wanted to kind of throw out there, I didn't find it that addictive. For a game like this, I wanted it to be more addictive. I wanted it to be like a Diablo where you want to find that next piece of loot. I wanted it to be like the MMO where like the gameplay is so solid, or there's just something about level building that you wanted to keep doing. I didn't find any like real appeal to the challenge rooms, and I didn't find real appeal to like the idle system where you could increase or decrease the level of difficulty. There was just something missing there for me, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So I guess that's it.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, it does share a lot of similarities with the game, like Diablo or Torchlight, but without having that constant loot reward, it really does kind of diminish that a bit. Because in those games, every you're killing things, and sometimes you're getting 2 or 3 items dropping from it, and you may not even need it, but you're still like, oh, look, this one's purple, or whatever. And then they have that element, whereas this one, it was like you were just earning the little whatever the currency is that then you use to unlock things, or you were finding the little items that the materials that were needed in some cases, but even they were pretty rare. So, yeah, I see what you mean about that. Like, I didn't find it particularly addicting myself either. I mean, I found it compelling enough that I played through the story. I tried a couple of the gauntlet thing where I think you go into someone's dream or something like that, and you basically have to go through like 20 waves of monsters. And I think I got down to like the second to last wave, and then I was just done and I died. And I realized I had to, that was it, pretty much. I ran out of lives and continues and everything, and I was just like, all right, well, I don't want to do that again. I wasn't like compelled to try again and see if I could do it. I was just like, I'm gonna get back to the story of the game.
Yeah, and it was there'd be other things I could like really. I'm not like trying to give the developers notes or anything here, but I'm just saying like games like Zelda where you're kind of constantly pushing forward because the bosses are really cool or the exploration is really cool. This game had like solid art style, solid polished gameplay mechanics and everything like that. But like I said, there's like the soul of it. There's something missing from it that just didn't have the addictive trait that I was going for.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of your negatives are basically my negatives. Like I said, I almost didn't finish it because I felt like I played enough of it, and I was just like, I played enough Bastion. Do I really want to finish it tonight? And then I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll just finish it. I didn't have that. I went on GameFAQs. I saw how far I was, and I was like, okay, I don't got much left. I'll sit down and I'll finish it. But yeah, I mean, it's strip away the art and the music and all that stuff. Break it down to its most basic form, and you don't have something that far removed from like Gauntlet. And it's those games are fun while they last. I was even thinking of like because Gauntlet's kind of like you're shooting a lot of things, where this is a little more beat 'em up. So I was kind of comparing it in my head as I'm playing it. I'm kind of comparing it to like a beat 'em up, like Turtles in Time or something. And even though they're just similar in the fact that you're just swarmed by guys, and that's basically all you're doing is just dealing with bad guys.
It's top-down Turtles in Time meets Sunset Riders.
Yeah, yeah, and those games work because they're short. Turtles in Time is awesome because it's like the best half hour ever, and this stretches on for almost 4 hours. So they try to have some depth to the combat with the shields and the different weapons, but I felt like I didn't really care about the weapons too much. I usually just kept the hammer or the machete and some kind of firing item, like a shotgun or something like that. I basically kept with the same 2 items. And, the upgrades, I felt like you didn't get enough of the items to make the upgrades.
And even when you got the upgrades, did it feel like the upgrade didn't make that big of a difference?
Yeah, I didn't even care. And like by the end of the game, I had like 5,000 blue, gold, whatever the hell it's called. And I bought a bunch of shit, and I didn't even, I don't know, I didn't even feel like I bought any shit. I just, I was like, okay, I just spent some money. But yeah, I agree that it just, it wasn't addicting. I don't know. And like you guys said, like Steve was saying, Diablo has loot and all that. So there's rewards to everything. Yeah, this game just kind of, the combat was solid. Like you said, it's not like buggy or anything. It works, but it's just very monotonous and gets repetitive after a while. And it doesn't help that there's no real interesting level design to kind of balance that, At least if the stages were like these cool cool labyrinth type mazes where maybe you're solving puzzles, maybe a little more Zelda-ish. The only thing it has in common with Zelda is the fact that I was rolling to go faster.
or even Diablo-ish. Diablo 1 and 2, they had some pretty labyrinthine, areas to explore.
Right. And this was just kind of like, occasionally you would go off path, and I found like a lot of times it was like a dead end, and it's like, okay, there's nothing here. Another complaint, and I'm glad I finished the game so I can complain about this, was the final stage. Like, all of a sudden, they introduced a jump mechanic. Now you're jumping, so you never jump any time in the game. You hit there's like an evade button, so he rolls, and now he can jump, and you're jumping over platforms, and it's just kind of, why did they add this in? It just felt, I don't know, jumping in a game like that, it's like kind of a big deal because it's hard to jump in those types of games. And to throw that in on the last stage, I mean, I wasn't falling down halls nonstop or anything. I wasn't sucking terrible, but it just felt like a strange choice to me.
It was.
You almost
weird.
wish that it was there, like in the beginning of the game, and it was like part of the mechanics all along, like jump obstacles,
Exactly. If I was jumping the whole time, cool. And then after that, the whole game you're trying to find like what weapons suit you the best, and then you have to use this big stupid battering ram, and he walks at like a snail's pace. And that part was kind of cool for a second, but then it went on for a real long time.
Yeah, then you're like, oh wait, no, this is what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of the game, which is only like 10 more minutes, but it's just kind of,
But, you couldn't drop it, and he was walking so slow, and I actually almost died with it, because at one point you're getting swarmed by all those ninja things. They were whooping the shit out of me. I don't know, man. They had me. I almost lost. So that last stage just kind of falls apart, I felt like. The battering ram would have been cool if it was like a shorter lived thing, but I don't know.
Or even if it was like if it was like, I agree with you with the jumping. If it had been something that was introduced kind of in small iterations earlier in the game throughout, so that then when you had it at the end, you were kind of, I don't know, it made sense from a gameplay point of view. And
I don't know. I was gonna say, and I don't know about you guys, but I found the last few stages, unless I had to fight, I just kept running. I wasn't even interested in fighting anymore.
Yeah.
Did you have that?
Nah, I'm the kind of guy that if I see something on screen, I'll go out of my way to try to kill it.
Yeah, I did the same. I was pretty much in that, and since there wasn't really much else to be a completionist about, then I was pretty thorough in making sure that I killed everything. Since I wasn't trying to like outfit myself with an armor set or anything like that, I was like, I might as well kill everyone.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Steve. I feel like I just cut you off.
That's okay. Go ahead.
And I did turn off the narrator. At first, I thought it was cool, like you said, Randy. It's like it's a neat like coding thing where he's kind of talking about whatever you're doing. You go do something little. You don't follow that path, and he still has something to say. He always has a little quip for something, but then you're playing the game and I'm just swarmed by enemies, and he is just blabbing and blabbing and blabbing, and he's not stopping, and I'm not even paying attention to him because I'm just trying to survive.
Right. At what point did you turn him off? Out of curiosity, do you remember around what point in the game?
It was probably halfway, because I played half of the game I think Monday night, and then I went back Tuesday, and I was like, there's got to be a way to turn this guy off. So I went into the options, and there was a way to turn him off, and I turned him off. And then I saw subtitles. I go, okay, well, I'll read when I want to read. And then I turned the subtitles on. And that actually got a little tricky, too, because now there's subtitles popping up during battle. So it's
I could see that being a pain in the ass.
Obnoxious. But easier to ignore.
Right.
Less noise to deal with. So, it's not like the writing was bad or anything. He just kept going and going, and it's just like another thing to try and pay attention to, and I didn't want to pay attention to it. And the story wasn't really it's not like he was going into like real deep detail about the characters or this, he's just kind of blabbing on about what was currently happening. So I didn't feel like I was missing much turning him off.
No? Oh, okay. I actually enjoy the narrator. I didn't have a problem with him at all. I mean,
a lot of people, you know what, Steve? A lot of people don't. A lot of people do enjoy the narrator. In fact, when you ask people what they think about the game, I think one of our number one response from everybody was like, they love the freaking narrator,
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I mean, I felt as though as the game went on, like towards the end of the game, I don't know if I tuned him out a bit when it was in those situations like you just mentioned, like where you're fighting a swarm of guys and he's basically giving you the play-by-play. I might have tuned him out at that point, but I don't remember him being as apparent during the later parts of the game. I felt like later in the game he would just kind of chime in here and there to kind of like tell you things about what was going on, like the motivations of why things had happened, as he was revealing more to you, the character, which you find out, at the end of the game who he's actually talking to. Right. I guess we should probably maybe put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this episode in case. I know it's been out for a while, but you never know. But yeah, so basically he's talking to the girl. He's not talking to you, the character, anyway. He's been telling this whole story to the girl. So that was kind of like the revelation later in the game. So I felt like he kind of scaled back a bit as you got further in. But in the beginning stages, I really, I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool. I liked his voice, his like that kind of like gruff. I loved the whole theme of the game. It had kind of like a westerny, steampunkish kind of fantasy thing about it, which I really liked. And like I was saying before we recorded, I was playing Red Dead at the same time, so I was like knee deep in cowboy western kind of stuff. So this game kind of just played perfectly off of that.
That's awesome.
But I thought it was cool. Yeah, I same kind of reaction, like the stuff where like you would just stop and kind of do something that like you weren't pushing the game forward. He would start to talk about the fact that you were just doing whatever. Right. I thought that was kind of cool. The music, the music blew me away, especially that one scene the level where you meet the girl. Yeah. And the point when you start hearing her singing off in the distance, and as you get closer, the music kind of gets louder and louder, and it's this song that's performed. I forget the name of the girl who performs the female vocal songs on the soundtrack. But yeah, I love that. I've listened to that song on the soundtrack probably 100 times in the past 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Cool.
And actually, that's going to be one of the songs we feature on this episode. So you guys listening will hear it at the end of the show. And just great. I thought the whole theme, everything. The story. I've heard people say that the story wasn't great. And I don't really know how I feel about that, because I thought the story was fine. I mean, I didn't think it was amazing.
It's a very simple story,
Yeah, it's a typical video game story. I mean, it didn't break down any barriers, but it didn't suck at the same time.
Right, and it was kind of like it explained enough where I was like, oh, okay, so this girl's father accidentally caused this huge catastrophe to happen, but it was actually a weapon that was being developed by one side to fight the other, whatever. It wasn't like terribly convoluted. It was simple enough to understand, and I felt like it just kind of it pulled everything together, but I didn't feel like they really needed to do much more with the story. I don't know if people were expecting something that was way more involved, but like there were no midi-chlorians, there was no there was no super in-depth, over-explaining of anything. It was just kind of took everything at face value, and you're like, all right, well, this has all happened, and now I'm either gonna make a couple choices here, and it's gonna play itself out in one of 4 ways.
Right.
Which I thought was weird that the moral choice came at the very end. Didn't you guys? How did you feel about that?
Well, you get the 2 choices at the end, pretty much. You get to the first one is you can choose to leave Zolf. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. You either choose to leave him or take him, and then you have a choice after that, which is I guess the weapon or the machine that you've been trying to.
The Bastion itself.
The Bastion itself, yes, that you've been trying to get going. It can either, I guess, go back in time and the calamity never happens, which is like the post the apocalyptic event that happens to the world,
right?
Or you can just kind of press on and hope for the best. So
well, the Bastion, you discover the Bastion's original purpose was an evacuation system.
Okay.
It was to get everyone would gather at the Bastion, and then it would take them away from where the calamity was going to happen.
Right.
So that they could survive and go and live somewhere else. And
right, because it's like a big airship, basically. It's
got
like sails on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those were your 2 choices. But it just seemed weird to me that all and I guess I don't know that I'd say they're moral choices because it doesn't really
Yeah.
It's not like light side, dark side. It's just kind of like, well, do you?
I guess the first one's kind of a moral choice. Well, what did you do with Zolf? I took him.
I took him too. Yeah, I helped him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, you all took him? I was hoping somebody didn't take him. I almost didn't take him. And then when I did take him, I thought I was going to lose because you're just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, am I doing this right? Am I going to die? What's going to happen? But I guess you're supposed to get whooped there.
Yeah, it's like the hallway scene in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Right, yeah.
God, yeah.
And I wonder if you didn't take him, if you were expected to fight and survive all those people.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if you would have had your weapon, or would you still have had that big battering ram? Because a lot of the attacks you were taking during that part were from people who were away from where you could reach them anyway.
Right.
So I wondered.
Yeah, that's true. And so then, Steve, I know you did the opposite choice because I looked at your achievements on Steam. At the end, I chose to carry on.
Okay.
And you chose to go back in time. So
I
what
did.
happens when you go back in time?
Nothing really. you see a scene of them, and that's pretty much it. Like doing what they were doing before the calamity happened, and that's it. It's not like anything amazing.
Randy, what did you pick for that?
I went back in time.
Man, I'm the only guy that went forward.
Well, hey, we all, can't remember what I was going to say there, but we all did it.
I
just kind of figured what happened. It's time to move on.
Yeah, the game has a new game plus mode also, where once you finish it, you can start over and retain all your weapons and upgrades and everything, and play through the game. I haven't done it either. It's one of those things I meant to do before we recorded, and to be honest, I was kind of like I don't really feel like. Not that I didn't like the game, I really enjoyed it quite a bit, but I didn't have any desire to really replay the whole thing.
I would do new game plus again if I wanted to go through and see the different outcomes to those choices.
Mm-hmm.
I can burn through the game a little bit faster, kind of thing. But new game plus is they got to be for the right kind of game. Like Chrono Trigger was the perfect game for a new game plus.
Yeah, because that was the new game plus. I don't think was there anything before that.
I don't know.
I think that was like the inventor. I'm pretty certain. Was it? I think so.
I don't remember anything before it. No.
Because there were so many different ways that you could finish that game, and they all felt complete. And then there was other ways that you could finish the game that you could only do if you played through the game a bajillion times, like I did.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't want to go off onto Chrono Trigger, but anyway, I don't know. My point is, I don't know if this game feels totally like it needs a new game plus.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Kind of with having all your the 2 decisions that you make being made within the last 5 minutes of the game is in a game that is 4 or 5 hours long. It's kind of weird because to do it all over again. Not that it would take you that long the second time, like you said, you're upgraded, so you could probably blow through it a lot quicker. But there's not anything going on during the game where I feel like I want to see it differently.
Right.
There's no other choices that you make early in the game or in the middle of the game where things deviate down different paths. That would really it would just be like doing the same game again, pretty much for the most part, until you get to the last 5 minutes. And
I mean, unless we're completely wrong, and please somebody in the comments let us know if we're totally off base here.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything in the game. Nothing was obvious, like, hey, do this as opposed to that at any other point aside from those two choices at the end of the game. So, yeah, I hope I'm not making an idiot of myself, but I don't think so. If the choices were there, they didn't do a very good job of presenting them because I didn't make them. I felt like it was pretty linear. You just follow the path, and then, you go on to the next spot. I did a couple of the weapons challenges. But they were, I think I did the first 2, maybe 3, and then I didn't do any after that. I was like, I don't care at all.
Yeah, I did one of them, and it was like, I got swarmed by a bunch of eyeball guys, and I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's nice that they put that in there. I mean, it's certainly an extra thing. If you're a completionist and you really just want to get, like, all the achievements and, then that's a New Game Plus, I think, is pretty much the only way you can get all the achievements because there's some stuff that I would think you would have to, you don't get enough stuff the first time through unless you're doing all those things over and over again, those weapons challenges. I don't think you can get enough currency and stuff to upgrade everything all the way. I don't think. Again, I could be making an ass of myself, but I'm pretty. It didn't seem that way to me. But I'm not a completionist. I'm not an achievement person. I really don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't have the time anymore to be a completionist.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Certain games will catch me once in a while, but
yeah.
For me, they're really, really few and far between where I'm like, okay, I gotta get. I gotta get a lot of the achievements in this game. It very rarely happens for me. I use them as kind of like a like they pop up and I'm like, all right. I guess I got a little further into the game.
Right.
It might as well be a loading screen or something, like saying that I'm going to the next chapter or something.
Right.
It's the same thing.
So I guess we all see kind of eye to eye on Bastion, other than Steve enjoyed the narrator more than us. So, but yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's interesting. We're all pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think that, it was a really well polished game, and I think it was one of the most well polished games of last year.
Yeah, Do you think it should be like on the top 10 for the year?
I think it should be probably in the top 10, but low on the top 10. I think in order to honestly be like game of the year, you've got to bring a lot more to the table than, than that kind of experience. I know it's really well polished and it brings amazing art style, it brings amazing music and everything like that. But like I said, that addiction level, that fun level, just wasn't there, and that's kind of why I play video games. It's really more for the fun.
Now, what about? And I know. Phil, I know you had kind of wanted to touch on this because we talked about this earlier in the week a little bit, or we kind of mentioned it briefly.
Sure.
And we cover games like this a lot. A lot of the games we've done on the show have been indie games. How do you, when you say that putting it on the top 10 list alongside of games like Gears of War 3 or Skyrim or Zelda, big studio games with large teams working on them, and then you compare it to a game that was developed by 7 people, is it, I mean,
it's almost not fair.
Right, that's what I mean. Is it fair to expect, a full, like a full-blown experience from a game that is it's an indie budget title for the most. I mean, I paid $5 for it or $6.50 because I got the
because you got it on sale or something.
I got it during a sale, and I got the soundtrack edition, so it was maybe like $6 or $7 as opposed to $5. But still, I mean, it's cheaper than a movie ticket,
Right.
Yeah.
And I got according to my Steam thing, I played it for 5.5 hours. So is it fair to really, be too hard on it, or is that an excuse? Is that a crutch? Like saying, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was gonna say, I had a slight thought when I was thinking about it, because I thought, I wonder how many people put this on a top 10 because they think, wow, these guys, there was only like 7 dudes that worked on this, and it's amazing, and it's so great, and they build it up in their head just because it was, and it's a great effort. I mean, these guys did a great job, a small team. But my thought was, well, all the games that we love from back in the day were made by like 7 people. So it kind of is fair, like, it's not fair, but I just mean, a lot of those games, I'm sure that Super Mario Brothers 3 or something like that. Or Mega Man 2 is a great example, made by like a couple of dudes at Capcom in their off hours at work because Capcom didn't even want to make Mega Man 2. They just made this game in their spare time. And I mean, can anybody argue that, Mega Man 2 is not like a class? I'd rather play that over most games today. So, if you have a great idea for a game and you do a great job, I don't know. It is kind of fair to compare it to some big studio that hired a bajillion people to work on some big giant piece of crap. Because in a way, it's a more focused effort. So I think it's fair. I think it's fair to compare them.
Okay.
And I do think that it should land solidly in a top 10 list. But some people that were kind of throwing it their game of the year, I think that was being a little too generous from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I would agree with that as well. Yeah, I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. But I do agree with both of you.
There you go.
Yeah. And I don't know if I said it, but yeah, I mean the art is great, and Bastion himself, I was kind of confused over, or not Bastion, the kid himself. I was a little confused over. I was wondering if this is just a geeky thing. I was wondering if he was a 3D model, like rendered old school style, like Donkey Kong Country, where he was just kind of like placed into the game, or if he was hand drawn. I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, I couldn't tell either. I was curious about the same thing, Phil. I really was.
Yeah, because he doesn't look like he's not like real time polys like that. You can tell.
Right. Yeah. He does look weird compared to like something about him is off from everything else. Like when you're watching like an old when you're watching like an old Roadrunner cartoon and like there's that one rock and like you can just tell it's different. It's different from everything else. So like obviously the rock is gonna move or something's gonna happen with the rock because it doesn't fit with the rest of the background. It was kind of like that.
Even the pillar that he picked. Well, the pillar that he picks up at the end is definitely 3D rendered 2D like Donkey Kong Country. Like that is definite. But I was wondering if he was. So if anybody knows the answer to that question, please tell me because I want to know.
Yeah. So across the board, everybody would give this one a worth buying.
Absolutely, yeah. Even at full price, I would say, if you can get it on sale, get it on sale. That's awesome. But even at $15, I think it's worth the price.
I agree.
I'd say get it on sale. Sorry. Yeah, but I mean it's good. It's good. I like it. It's not like I'm not hating on it.
Right. I mean, it's just that it's not often that you find people that will actually talk about the negative points to a game that is actually so incredibly popular, because it's almost at that point you become like this, I don't know, like this bastard who's speaking out against against the Bible or something.
Well, we also have the benefit of having a little bit of time and perspective with the game, whereas a lot of people who were raving about it was when it first came out, and we've had
that knee-jerk reaction to how beautiful the game is, or that knee-jerk reaction to like the fact that like every other site in the world that's reviewing it is giving it near perfect marks. So if you don't give it near perfect marks, then what's wrong with you? Kind of thing.
And I don't mean to say that like buy it full price, don't buy it on sale. I mean, if you can get it on sale, get it on sale. I just mean that if it never goes on sale again and like you really, really want to play it, it's worth $15. I don't think you'll have any buyer's remorse.
No,
I guess is what I meant by that.
Right. Yeah. It's a sound game. It is built well. It works well. It's just not totally original other than the narration. And
don't go into it expecting that it's gonna like blow you away. Go into it expecting it to be another top-down action game, and you will be perfectly satisfied with your purchase.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a follow-up to it, I would really like. If they do a follow-up to it, I'll say this: I probably wouldn't buy it, well, at least at full price, unless they did a little more with, just made the level design a little more interesting, stuff like that.
I agree. If they made the levels more interactive, like a more crucial part of the story. And I mean, it's neat that you see the world being built around you, but
that stuff's
the
cool.
level design was pretty uninspired. Most of the maps were pretty, straight lines, except for like the occasional right-hand turn that you'd have to make, but that's just because the path didn't go anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So
yeah, if Bastion was like if they just crossbred Bastion with like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, you bet your ass I would buy the next game.
Yeah, I agree. It would be very awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So Steve, you want to take away a little community feedback. We actually got a decent amount.
Yeah,
a lot of people played this.
Gotta preface this by saying that this game, in addition to being the one that all three of us finished, this game, we got way more feedback from the community on this one than any previous game, so that's great. Awesome. Thank you very much, and here we go. So from Noah G, I'm not going to read, a lot of these came from Facebook. I'm not going to read these guys' last names just because, I don't know.
For personal reasons.
Right. They may not care, but just to be safe. So Noah G wrote, it's pretty intense / awesome. The narration definitely makes up for any plot weakness I noticed, and the lock-on ability makes fighting in an isometric viewpoint a non-issue. I agree with that, definitely. I thought the lock-on worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the lock? I heard about the lock-on, but what was the lock-on?
Did you play with mouse and keyboard, or did you play with...
Played with an Xbox controller.
Yeah, me too. You didn't notice that it would lock?
Like when I was attacking people?
When
I would use fire a weapon, it would lock.
Yes, yeah, yeah, for ranged weapons. Yeah,
okay.
not for melee.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Dave C said it's awesome. That's it. Thanks, Dave. Hey, any feedback is valued. Thank you very much. Tobias, awesome name, being an Arrested Development fan.
Yeah.
A really great game. The combat is fun and intense, and the narrator makes it more interesting, to say the least. The levels are gorgeous. It's all hand-painted, I believe, and I don't know one way or another. It may be.
I could believe that they hand-painted their initial designs for it, and then scanned them in. I could believe that.
Yep. That stuff's all digital painting.
Yeah,
but
you could still hand paint digitally.
Yeah, it's still yes, it's still painted by hand digitally. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's not like,
you didn't whip out the canvas or
something.
anything.
Yeah,
right. It's not oil painted. Okay.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Matthew C writes, awesome game all around, well crafted and realized world, great music, great aesthetic, fulfilling storyline, good replayability. Combat could be a little clunky, but was all around satisfying in weapon variety and mechanics.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point, that there's a good variety of weapons. Even though you might not feel the urge to play with every single weapon, there's still going to be something there that everybody's going to be comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I tried every weapon pretty much.
You have to try every weapon.
Every time you got a new...
Yeah. You kind of have to try with every weapon, but I always fell back on the old machete and six shooter combination myself.
Nathaniel D wrote, it's well made, but over-reliant on style over substance. The mechanics and the narration get tired about halfway through.
Ah, look at that.
You guys are on board with that.
All the money.
And I guess, I agree with the style over substance, because like I said, the story is what it is. It's just not anything amazing, but it's enough to get you through, and it does kind of lean on all those other ingredients to make up the product. And this next name, I think it's Arshad L. Amazing game. My favorite is the narration. The combat is very tight, and love the graphics design. I admit I haven't finished it yet. Haven't played in a while. Well, that's okay.
What he played? He must have played it for like an hour.
Yeah, or maybe the demo, or
two.
Oh, you mean because the narration's his favorite?
Well, no, but just because, I don't know, he hasn't finished it yet. I'm just saying because it was short.
Juan wrote, I like the game itself, but the narration comes across as pretentious and unnecessary. Okay. I don't know. I guess it's a little pretentious, but I mean, it is.
There's a bit of pretentiousness in there.
You know what though? I want some video games to be a little pretentious. They can't all be tits and guns and explosions and shit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's a highbrow game, I was sitting here sipping my tea with my pinky out while I was playing the game.
I want to add before you move on. The first night I was playing, it had it all turned up real loud, and my wife came down to do some laundry. And she's in there doing it for a bit, and then she comes out and she goes, "Is that the game talking that whole time?"
You thought you were talking to yourself?
Well, I think she thought maybe I was listening to something. And I go, "Yeah, it's the game. He talks a lot." And she goes, "That is so stupid." And then she walked away. And she's kind of into video games a little bit, So I just thought that was interesting that her initial reaction was that is annoying. I don't know.
I guess it kind of would be annoying though if you were sitting outside of the room and you weren't seeing exactly what the hell was going on.
Right. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting, just like, a passerby or someone that was just kind of in and out, heard the game for not even 5 minutes.
All right, and this next one from Blake L. Blake, thank you very much. He submitted a really, really long, multiple paragraphs, and there was just, no way to read it all on the show, but thank you very much. But I grabbed kind of a bit from it, and here you go. He says, the best part was the plot. It stepped away from the normal end-of-the-world plot and went into something new. It's focused not on what you were doing, but the crazy world around you. Your foes were not evil, just misunderstood. It really paints a picture of a world where no one group is to blame for what happened, yet they still try to. And this is all told on the side of the game. None of this information is forced on you. You have to make scene of it for yourself.
Sense, maybe.
And it's not
Makes
hard.
sense, yeah,
it's not hard to do if you just pay attention. Which, yeah, that's true. I mean, if you're just playing along and listening to what the narrator says, then yeah, you get all that about what we mentioned earlier about how one side was developing this weapon and some guy got manipulated by the other side and then ended up just going off and screwing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Blake. Jordan P says, haven't beaten it yet, but so far it's pretty amazing. Cool. Stay on that horse, Jordan. You'll get through. This is from Korn. He posted this on the Elder Geek website. I just finished Bastion. Really, really good. The second really is in all caps.
Yes.
The narrator is an excellent storytelling mechanic, although the end was really kind of weak. I liked the idea of multiple endings. I don't like the idea of moral choices popping up at the end. Have developers forgotten how to do multiple endings? At the end of the day, though, Bastion was still one of my favorite games of last year. I also shortened Korn's as well, so sorry. His was another multi-paragrapher one. Tygrander via Twitter wrote, amazing storytelling, fantastic characterization, unbelievable music, brilliant art style, but the gameplay is decent. It is just an unbelievably good game on all levels.
It's amazing how he praises the whole thing, right? And then he says, the gameplay's decent. But then, unbelievably good on all levels. Well, not really. You just said the gameplay, the most important part, only got a decent. I'm just saying. I'm not trying. Thank you for writing. I'm not trying to get dick.
This is the Elder Geek Game Club podcast where we dissect and discuss the comments left by our community.
We should. I mean, they're leaving them for us, and
No, you're right. I know what you mean. No, you're right. But no, that's cool.
Thank you, Tigernator, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
Tigernator was our lone Twitter commenter. That's cool. He only had like 160 characters, Phil, for Christ's sake.
He did it, yeah. Considering that's all Twitter, he did a nice job.
Yeah.
There.
TH2 wrote on the Elder Geek website, Bastion was one of the few games I actually finished in 2011. Pros, the combat was so fun and was always exciting. The weapons were just so unique and varied. The pacing was superb, and the narrator made the game special. The adjustable difficulty with the idols was quite incredible, as it was entirely up to you how hard you want the game to be. Overall, Bastion is a true gem of a game. Before we get into the last, we didn't really mention this very much, but I guess you guys played it on normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had a setting, and I also played it on normal, but there was a setting where it was like kind of like an ultra easy mode. So like if you just wanted to find out the story and go through the game, you could play it on that, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like they didn't call it easy; they had another name for it, and then there was a description saying like, for people who just want to see what this game's about. Yeah. Right. But then they also had the idol system in the game where you could then unlock these idols and you could use them to up the difficulty level in the game. So even if you were playing it on normal or if you were playing it on hard, you could make it even harder by enabling these idols. I don't know if you guys tried. I looked at it and I'm like, it makes it hard. Why would I want to make it harder?
Yeah, the idols didn't make sense. I actually thought it was hard. The game would have been hard enough if it wasn't so generous with the health.
Yeah, health was very. Yeah, there was not really any time where I was like, oh man, I'm almost out of health.
Right.
It was just, they were just throwing it at you all the time, pretty much.
Right.
On normal anyway, maybe not on hard. I don't know. I didn't play it on hard. So anyway, I thought that was he was one of the only people that mentioned the idol thing, so I wanted to touch on that. And last and certainly least is Dante, our shining
our
shining white knight.
He's poor Dante.
Dante writes, Bastion is definitely overrated, but that's not to say it's bad. The combat works well and never gave me much of a problem, save for the lock-on for ranged weapons.
Which goes against what the other guys said.
Yeah. All the different weapons were great to try out to find what worked best for your dude, and the challenge areas for each weapon were a nice little additional thing to do. That whole last level is worthy of discussion, and the reuse of the word baffling. Why would you give a shitty bull ram to force you to use for the whole level when you've been building an arsenal and figuring out your load the entire game? And why is there a funky jump mechanic? Am I going to start driving a car in a moment, too?
He's right. It's a weird, that last stage is like odd design choice after odd design choice.
Maybe they're building up for, maybe those are the things that you're going to start off with in Bastion 2, damn it.
Maybe Bastion 2 is going to be called, like, Super Jump Battering Ram Bastion. And the whole game is just going to be jumping, and you're going to have that battering ram. And then at the end, you'll get machetes and a gun for, like, the last 10 minutes of that game.
Yeah, that's what also
So, again, guys, thanks very much for the comments. We really appreciate it.
That was a loaded section.
It really was. It was. I need to go get a drink or something. I haven't talked that much during that section before in any other episode. So,
do you want me to take over for you here?
No, I'm good. I think that's it. That was the end. That was it. Dante was our final commenter. Let's wrap this episode up. Next time around is Randy's choice. Yep. And Randy, you want to tell us about the game you have chosen for the next episode?
Next episode, we are going to be playing Unstoppable Gorg. I'm sure a lot of people actually have seen ads for it. They seem to have a slightly aggressive ad campaign where they were actually buying ad space on some rather popular game sites, which is kind of odd for a smaller game like this. But it's a tower defense kind of game, but it's set in this kind of 50s sci-fi kind of feel. So it'll be interesting. I think I played a few minutes of it. I didn't want to spoil it too much for myself for when I actually play it over the next couple of weeks. But what I've played so far, I liked a lot, and I think everybody that plays it will enjoy it as well. So for next episode, if you guys want to have your comments read on the show, leave your comments wherever comments can be left. YouTube, eldergeek.com, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. We'll find the comments, and we might read your comments next episode on the Unstoppable Gorg.
Very good. Before we wrap up completely, I'd also like to throw out a quick thank you to Nick from Team of Bobo. He, I guess, listened to the last episode of the show and took some time out to even write us a really nice email about it. And he had some tips for Phil on how to beat Little Mac. And just really appreciate that he took the time to write to us. And I think we were fair about the game, and he didn't express any sort of why didn't you guys say this, or he was really cool about it. And
he didn't dig at me and Steve either when we both sucked so hard that we couldn't finish the game.
Right?
So,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, he was very cool, and I appreciate that.
I will say that when he wrote that, I thought, oh man, I hope I didn't sound like a dick, and I re-listened to the episode, and then I was like, yeah, I sounded okay. But I was kind of upset at first.
So we are now on the Zune Marketplace, along with iTunes and a million other podcast directories. So if you have access to Zune or iTunes through whatever means, we would really appreciate it if you guys could leave us some reviews. Even if you just want to leave stars, you don't want to write an actual review, that's fine too. It would really help us out. On Zune, I posted this on Facebook. Thank you to Zune subscribers. I guess we have a lot of you guys all of a sudden because we got pushed up onto the most subscribed podcast page on the Zune Marketplace for games, which kind of blew me away when I saw that. So thank you very much, and we'd love to do the same thing on iTunes. So the more people we can get subscribing there, leaving reviews there, it would really help us out, get more people listening, more people submitting comments to the show. It would be awesome. The more people we get submitting stuff, that's going to take more of a front seat on the show. I mean, I'd love to have people calling in, leaving stuff over Skype for us that we could actually play on the show. So that stuff's all out there. I just need to get more people participating.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions specifically for any of the three of us, sign up for the Facebook group if you use Facebook at all. We're on there pretty regularly. It's a little bit harder for us to like respond properly through like YouTube and other channels. So Facebook, send us some notes on Facebook or even on eldergeek.com. We all have accounts, of course, on there as well. So
yep.
Yeah, follow us there.
Yeah, and while you're at it, yeah, absolutely. If you're hearing this somewhere else, head over to eldergeek.com. Check out all the awesome reviews, editorial comments, other podcasts. The Jumpman podcast, also on eldergeek.com. An excellent show. Twitch TV, we got stuff streaming all the time. Guys playing some awesome games live for people to enjoy. There's a lot going on, so check out eldergeek.com.
Yeah, stay tuned for that Kingdoms of Amalur video review, too.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, I guess we'll wrap this episode up. Thank you guys very much for listening and downloading the show and all your comments. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that we will see you next time for Unstoppable Gorg. For myself, Steve Wilkinson, and Phil and Randy, we will see you next time.
Yeah. Good night.
Night.